Welcome to Still with Purpose. This is Amanda and Christy.
Our goal is to dig deep and discuss real, raw subjects in pursuit of greater self-awareness, positive transformation and healing, and to link arms and journey with you to find purpose and passion in life. Welcome back, everyone. This week, we are talking about a question: which areas of your life are stagnant because you're trying to do it all yourself? Amanda, what's our quote?
All right. We can't thrive alone. Personal growth requires supportive people who guide and hold us accountable with compassion. Have you guys ever had a dream so big you thought there's no way I can do this alone? What if I told you that the people you surround yourself with and the accountability you embrace can literally turn the impossible into reality?
I am a big dreamer. I think we all are. But a lot of times my dreams, they kind of snowball and then they do feel so big and overwhelming and daunting. And I find myself calling myself crazy and too big of a thinker, shutting my own self down, basically. Do you do that?
Sabotage?
Not even sabotage, but not even letting myself go down a certain path too far, even though I want to. And sometimes my mind will take off and go in that direction. But I eventually get to the point where it's like, just stop.
I think when we're doing something that is outside of ourselves, our ego goes in and tries to shut that down because there's such a fear of loss or failure. The stuff that comes up for you naturally when you try and do something different, it's the pushing past that. That is where the growth is. It's about the journey, truly, because I've reached huge goals in my lifetime and it wasn't about the actual goal. You get there and you're like, cool, we're here. It's just like so lame. But I actually even cried when I got to the land after a 7-year ordeal of waiting and watching and trying and praying and all the stuff. And then I cried because all of our employees were drug addicts and I was getting out of the bubble of, we're talking in the mountains where there's not too many employee choices. I just got this huge feeling of, this isn't what I dreamed of. I wanted to work with at-risk youth. Now I'm running a wedding venue. And are all my skills useful? Yes, absolutely. Did I eventually create exactly what I wanted? Yes. But it took 1.5 years probably for me to get there.
I think people can spend lifetimes working on goals, and sometimes they come to fruition and sometimes they don't. But 1.5 years seems not too bad.
Well, 1.5 years plus 7 years of what I went through questioning if this is the dumbest thing ever, because it still hasn't come to fruition. And now being on the other side where that dream is completely done and closed door, a lot of loss. How do you dream again? You have to heal. You have to take the time to reboot, get grounded again. What went right? What didn't go right? And then go from there with God. Like, hey, that wasn't a waste of time because I just learned all of these skills. I know how to run events. I know how to run a wedding from every detail. So eventually it will come back.
I know. And that's the exciting part, is that hopefully as the years go on, we start to see it come full circle and say, why did I go through that? Why was I put through learning these skills? But we talk about it all the time. God has an ultimate plan. And so just having faith in that. And I'm talking to myself because it's not easy to even begin to see what's the purpose in things sometimes.
No, not when you're in the pain of it, the suffering aspect. I think we talked about this last week. We were talking about dreams. And the thing is, you can run as hard as you want from your dreams. They're still going to come back. So it's like, okay, I guess let's give this a whirl. Let's try something different.
Maybe if we reframe dreams, instead of thinking of them as dreams, thinking of them as a desire that God has put in our hearts for a reason,
yes,
it feels less out of touch and out of scope.
Because I see a dream as I acquired it and attained it and completed it as like a controller personality. But really, I love what you said, is if it was just a feeling of these are my giftings and I'm going to move with favor and flow toward things that I'm called to do, rather than there's a start date and a close date and an end date and a loss date and all these things. Why can't it just be I'm walking in my purpose and and passion.
Right.
And this is the new thing that I'm doing.
That
That's
reframes
empowering.
it. It is empowering. That totally reframes it in my
Because it
mind.
doesn't mean I lost my dream. It means I'm now being moved into something else, right? And it's always evolving.
I don't think my purpose today is the same as my purpose was 10 years ago. I was fulfilling a different purpose in that moment. Now, did I still have the same types of talents and gifts? Probably, but God was calling me to use them in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, being a single mom or a mom, when you first have babies, you're like, is this all I'm going to do in my life? Is change diapers and feed babies? I have so much more in me. You know what I mean? And we're complaining about actually raising a human being into a quality person. Now that I'm on the other side of that and my boys are grown, it's just so cool to look back and be like, I really did that. I can't believe I did that. And that was a dream and passion of mine.
Yeah.
And now I get to be a great coach and friend, instead of a mom.
Isn't it funny? I would give anything to go back to those diapering days. That would be a dream of mine now to do that. But back then, I was focused on career and providing for my kids, providing the life that I thought they would want to have and that I thought I should be giving them. So now that I'm older, I try to look at things with not such a clouded view of what I should be doing and really try to focus on what's in front of me. And that's really hard for me because I tend to look at the future and skip ahead and go fast. So that's really hard for me.
No, there's a solid struggle there, and that's definitely a future podcast that I just wrote today.
Oh, there we go.
That's cool you mentioned it. It's
Mhm.
coming up. We don't know when.
Okay.
About daily bread and
Oh,
being
yes.
content in today. But today we're talking about and diving into how God, community, and intentional accountability can push you past your limits and help you achieve the goals you've been too afraid to chase. I have to say that I've said this before. I have accomplished nothing without accountability. And I want to be super clear on that. Every single thing I've done that I've accomplished has been because I set up accountability around it. And that ranch dream was nothing less than that. Like I had prayer warriors, the whole thing. But by creating the community of people that wanted to pray for this dream to come to fruition was a huge part of it. That means they're totally bought in on the dream. They are totally grounded around what our prayer needs are and things we're requesting. And they're so there for the miracles and the things unrolling. Ended up getting married there, and it ended up being a dual thing, a celebration of what I dreamt about and accomplished, but also I got married. So I had the most kick butt wedding you could ever imagine, to the detail. And it also was to announce, hey, this dream finally came to fruition. And all those people were so joyful because they had been a part of the community that was with me for 7 years of building that and hoping for it and striving towards it as best as I could. And I would say doing life with a community that has got your back and is celebrating your wins with you is an absolute necessity.
The Bible even says he even wants us to do the most intimate thing together, which is pray. And when you're talking about that sense of community, people who can pray together and dream together, that is so intimate. And it's sharing your heart with someone and inviting God into it, asking God, lead us. This is your plan. So you lead us to what you want us to do.
And he gets the glory, not me,
Right.
for achieving it. Because I could not have done that without our investor. I couldn't have done it. It wasn't my money. And how I could easily say a couple hundred people were completely inspired by the journey and to see it come to fruition. Absolutely. It helped other people dream big out of the box. And it just was such an exciting thing. And I'm not done. I have so many years of life left. That is what keeps me rocking and rolling and dreaming still, is because I know I have gifts that are still not being used or that are waiting for me to walk into again. Or there's just a lot of different scenarios that you and I both could create if we actually opened our mind out of the small box it's been in for a while.
I get very boxed into the daily worries and needs. So to try to think outside of that, what would life look like if I wasn't worried about finances or activities, be a whole new world opened up. And you said something that I think is important, that accomplishing a dream of yours inspired other people. I definitely love biographies where you can see other people that throw caution to the wind and go after their dreams and they accomplish it. It is so inspiring. It's catching and makes you want to go do it too. That's also part of community where you can see other people stretching and striving for what they believe they're called to do. Makes you want to jump on board and do the same.
And when you see yourself accomplish a huge thing, for me to acquire a $2 million piece of property with an investor, none of my money, just my time and talent, you better believe I have a high faith level to dream. It's just, I had to go through a period of time where I healed and wasn't bitter and angry for the loss of all that. And I love what you said at the beginning. It's an aha for me to really reframe that as that was an awesome opportunity and it was an amazing time. And it was also a very painful time. And that doesn't mean I'm done.
Right.
There's more for me. And that's exciting.
Absolutely.
Kind of going back into the accountability piece, I somehow got on the hashtag of 200-mile trail running, which is not something I will ever do. I'm just going to go ahead and admit that. It's not a gifting of mine or an enjoyment.
That's funny because I mentioned in an episode that's dropped recently about having a former coworker that is a huge trail runner, and it looks amazing.
Yeah, that's their gift. They love it. They feel empowered. They're inspiring the heck out of people to just go walk today. But I'm always floored because they have a running buddy. They have people set up along the trail that run 50 miles with them and encourage them the whole way. They're also doing this in the wilderness, in the middle of the night, by themselves with a headlamp. And they have rest stops or whatever they call them. It's a different term, but they stop and eat and go to the bathroom and change or do whatever they need to do. They're nourishing themselves. And that's what community means to me when you're thinking out of the box and dreaming big.
It's a good analogy.
Also, they have sponsors and high accountability with the buy-in fees. And these aren't cheap races they're signing up for. I just love the analogy of it because they're doing what they love and they're able to make money doing it. They're being supported to where they can still have this awesome family life and they can do the thing they love. So if anything, I want to encourage you guys today that think out of the box. If you think there's no way you can use your skills, you're not around the right people. Because your skills are valuable somewhere and there's something that you would be very excited to do and to not close those doors.
I've talked a lot about a property that I acquired and it wasn't on my own and it wasn't even just with my husband and myself. It was also with another couple friends of ours and it did require us to come together as a group, not a solo effort. So I do appreciate when people can say for a greater good or a greater goal, and it may not even be one person part of the group. It may not even be their dream or big goal, but they can say, me being part of this, I understand somebody else's vision. Even if it's not your own goal, being a part of another bigger picture, you're allowing God's plan to come forth. So I have a huge appreciation for the group of people that secured the property that I love and have done a lot of work on in terms of making it available to other people and families, which was the ultimate vision for that, and sharing God's creation with others.
What if their calling is to help other people's dreams come to fruition? And then that's it. That's their only part in it. You don't know.
And I'm sure God has multiple things for us all to accomplish while we're here on this earth. That could be one small piece of what one person is being called to do.
We had I don't know what we called it, basically a weekend where we had a hotel, 50 rooms, not a hotel, but a lodge and 50 rooms. And we had so much work. You couldn't walk anywhere on that land and not see something that needed to be painted or fixed. It was dilapidated land. It probably needed $1 million of work, honestly. And I put out there, hey, I'm going to have a work weekend. We'll feed you and we will house you and we will all be working on these projects. We sanded and restained 250 wood chairs. Not easy chairs either. Very intricate cabin type chairs. It was a huge job, but it seemed so menial compared to what needed to be fixed on the land. But people got so much pride being a part of my dream that they have been a part of for 7 years until we acquired it. But they got to like sign the bottom of a chair or, be a part of something that was loving on what I was doing. But also it was a win for them in so many ways. It's just cool. Never underestimate, the help from others and the community from others is really a gift to them as well of giving back. And maybe that's the only part in it.
I do love there are certain communities like the Amish community where that's just part of their culture. They come together and they help each other, whether it's times of need or in times of progress, like building new buildings. That's just part of who they are together. And it's beautiful.
Yeah. We could learn a lot from just that example of what community is, truly. Another thing that I accomplished in that time period was I was sitting on a book. I knew I was supposed to write a book, and we hadn't acquired the lands. I was still shooting for the seminar company, the first seminar company I was with. I was at probably an event every other week. Pretty much. It was insane. It was an insane schedule. And we did a lot of goal setting, and I set up a goal. I'm going to write my book finally. I'm going to bring all my content together because I blogged for about 10 years. I'm going to bring all my content together and pull my book together. I set high accountability around it, and I accomplished that and published. And no kidding, we acquired the land in February, I believe, of 2015, and I got my book done in 2014. Now, I would have never finished this book on the land. There's no way. We were working 60 to 90-hour weeks. It was just a moment of clarity of if you can just flow with and do things when you feel very passionate about them and get them done, you have to know that it's a timing thing and that God was like, let's get this done. This has been on your plate. Let's knock it out because I know how busy you're going to be in 4 months. It was a really cool thing for me to go through and see timing wise.
I've had dreams, for lack of a better word. So let's call it desires in my heart that I haven't gone after. And then I've thought the ideal situation for that has now passed. Does the dream or the desire stay with me and carry forward? Possibly. So I guess that's another thought is that just because our situation changes doesn't mean that our desires have to go away. They probably just morph and God can make anything happen no matter the circumstance.
Right. Or he changes your heart around it. That's been my biggest prayer recently is just change my heart to what your will is. I don't want to be resistant. I want to be grounded in my decision making. And he has. Totally, just this week alone, giving me so much clarity on what my next move is for my stuff and to not question it. There's no question that he's leading me in all the facts, all the information I need to make a quality decision for myself. And that has taken extreme trust and a lot of time with God to get to that point, to where I know it's his voice. That's also very important, you guys. The dreams are from him, in my opinion. He places these gifts and talents in us. We're all intricate and unique, but we have to cultivate the character that can actually acquire the dream. We have to be building and growing to be the person that can take on this goal or dream. No, we won't know everything in order to do it, but we are ready to take on the 40 more growth spurts that we're going to have to do in that dream. And I told you how I have the faith level to dream now. The reason 2007 to 2015, a lot of the courses that I shot were goal setting. So I got a lot done because I set goals with the students. And the reason I had faith to believe in the ranch dream was because when I was a student going through the goal setting classes, before I started taking on the photography, I was setting my own goals. And one of my personal goals was to pay off $60,000 of debt in 10 weeks. And I did it. And all the facilitators, they want you to get the goal done and 100% this bad boy. Their ego's not on the line, but it's competitive. We were in small groups and stuff like that. I was asked by several of the leaders, are you sure about this? And I said, absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I had some things in my back pocket. I had an MLM that had a credit card. That's how they paid you, was put it on the credit card. I had money on there that I hadn't touched. There's backup plans, but I went home from that event and immediately walked into a YMCA and said, hey, I want to do your sports photography. And he's like, cool. The guy just left actually last week. We'll take you. And it was an immediate. Now I had to work my booty off in the high season in the summer. I can't even tell you. I think it was probably about 35,000 of that money was from those events. And I didn't have that gig before I set the goal, if that makes sense. So setting the goal and having this strong intention of doing it and having the community around me and having the accountability around me is why I created that.
That's a great story. It's a big goal.
And that created the faith to believe into the ranch dream, which created the faith to believe that I could dream again. And I co-created with 3 of my friends a women's weekend, and we co-facilitated and wrote all the content and had it at the ranch. I wouldn't have had the belief to do that if I didn't create these other things before that, right? Or acquire the land. So now the goal is to just keep putting huge goals out there so that you are building your faith level of what you can actually accomplish, not stay in the box of you're never going to amount to anything kind of thing.
And I don't think it's as much what we can accomplish. It's what can God accomplish. It's one thing to say God can accomplish anything. But when we really step out in faith and say, I'm going to live as if God can accomplish whatever he wants here. And I'm pretty risk averse. And so I need to, I don't want to say have more faith, because I truly believe in my heart God can and will do whatever God wants. But my behaviors and my actions don't always follow through on that faith. And I told you recently, I felt like when facing a big decision, God laid it out and said, here are 2 paths. And I'm going to be with you, whichever one you choose, but you have free will and it's up to you to choose. And while both seem scary and rewarding in their own ways, ultimately we have to choose. Are we going to trust in God to overcome obstacles that we are scared about? Or are we going to play it safe and maybe not do the more risky or the more what could be rewarding because of our fears? And again, I'm speaking to myself. So that's just when I think about dreams and really following through on going after them, that's the struggle that I think about a lot.
Well, and I think that you answered it at the beginning, is if you reframed it, it wouldn't be scary at all. You're just on this journey with God of, I'm willing to be used for my talents and skills, and I can't wait to see what we unfold together. Instead of you risk taking and your ego's getting bruised because you failed, or all the stuff that comes with the lack or the scarcity mindset. Or you don't have the faith because you haven't done it so far. Borrowing other people's faith is super important as well when you're doing something that you've never tried that's so out of your wheelhouse. Those are some of the people you want in your community that have done some big things. People do come to me to tell me about their humongous dreams because they know I have the faith level to be like, yeah, dude, do it. Do it with God and you got this. We'll see what unfolds. So this really goes back to the quote of, we can't thrive alone. I don't believe we can. It does require supportive people who are guiding us and encouraging us and holding us accountable. The biggest part of that is with compassion. Compassion is a key element to that because you're character developing and you're growing, and that's not always fun. And sometimes it's an ego buster because you haven't grown into the character that you deserve and desire to be to do this. So having the compassionate group that's like, Amanda, you have this. I've seen what you've done before. When you're committed, just go have a day off, sleep on it, relax, and let's pick it up tomorrow. When are you going to have that done? That's compassionate accountability.
Yeah, I can be very hard on myself, and I'm sure a lot of people listening are the same way. I'm not alone in this. Also trying to speed things up, not doing things quick enough for myself, and then I can get really bummed out and disappointed in myself. So having that community and compassion, like you're saying, reminds us that a lot of times we're up against ourselves and our own expectations, which are not other people's and they're not God's, because the dream and the goal is still going to be there the next day, whether or not you accomplish this one step of it in today's time or by the end of the week, or maybe it's next month. So a lot of times putting our own unrealistic expectation and timing on it adds to frustration. Whereas if we had the community people around us to remind us it's not necessary, then I think that helps.
And I can tell you right now, my community saw me go through the biggest loss of my life, and they held me accountable to rise again. And it's so cool that I met you on a plane when all of that was basically done. And I had this community that's like, you're gonna rise again. We've seen you do it. We know you can do it. We're gonna hold you accountable to do it. That is why I'm here on this earth still. Truly, that community pulled me out of the pit in so many ways and encouraged me to keep going. And I want to say very clearly, everything that I shared with you as far as what I've accomplished, hashtag only God, for real. And it's not to brag. It's to encourage you to get real and start dreaming again and go for it. Rise from the ashes and go for it. That is what I wanted this podcast to be about, is just great encouragement.
Okay, so some questions to think about and journal about this week on this topic. First of all, who in your life is running with you and not just cheering from the sidelines? That's a big one, I think. That's what we're talking about, this sense of community and having people around you that are in it with you. And then what's one goal you've been holding back on because you thought you had to do it all by yourself? If you fully trusted God and the people around you, what could you accomplish in the next 90 days that feels impossible? That's the one that I told Amanda, like, man, if we took off the feeling of responsibility for material things or obligations for activities or engagements, all the things that we feel like we have to do day in and day out that we don't want to do, that are not part of our calling, remove those and just had trust in God that he would work all those things out. What could we accomplish in 90 days? That's a really fun thing to think about and really empowering to think about.
I'm a huge believer in 90-day runs. So just start dreaming again. That's all I'm asking.
Even if it's not 90 days, it's like, what could you do in the next 30 days? Just the idea of fully trusting God and saying, I'm not going to worry about any of these other things.
I don't have to figure out any of it. What could I create?
And what would you go after? What would you do?
Love it.
That's so fun to think about. That everyone listening could write a whole notebook of what they would go after.
Come share on our Facebook community. We're trying to build that community up to be, honestly, people that just want to be around the content that we're putting out there. So we'd love to have you join it by going to our social media links.
It's really interesting, really quickly. I was just talking about this a little while ago while at work still, that we put on an event last year for one of the brands that I represent or that my company represents. And in the event, we had people submit as part of a contest for a big prize. They had to submit a write-up of what's an ambition of theirs that they had. And there were things like, I would start a mobile book library for kids in my town, or I would do a food drive to help the food challenged. There were all different kinds of these really ambitious goals. But what struck me the most, it didn't have to be something that served others. It could have been an individual goal. But more times than not, people were saying these ambitions that would serve others and help others. So it's really cool. I would love to hear what types of ambitions or dreams people have if they could let go of all the day-to-day responsibilities that none of us really want to think about or be bogged down by. I bet it would be a lot of serving others and reaching back and pulling others forward.
Well, and that goes back to the whole point and quote of this whole talk is hyper independence, and not having it be about serving others is too small of a goal. He actually wants you to have to work with other humans. That's a part of the growth. So if you don't like people, set some goals that involve a community and growing.
Great discussion as usual. Thanks to everyone.
See you next week. Thanks for joining us today. We know your time is valuable and we hope you have a phenomenal week.
Until our next episode, find more content and social links at stillwithpurpose.com.